It's time for the UNX News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the UNX News Podcast, Margie K.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Margie K, and this is UNX News. We're here every Friday at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, and I'm glad you could join me this evening. I've got a couple of things I want to remind you about before we get rolling tonight. The latest issue of UNX Magazine is out and available. If you're a member, you can get a digital copy for free. So if you go to unxnetwork.com, that's unxnetwork.com, you can get a free digital copy, or there is a link there where you can go and purchase one in print. We've got a few conferences coming up that are very important. This one is starting next week. I am speaking at this conference, but I'm not biased because this is one of the best conferences I've ever been to. This is wonderful. You will love it. It's in Grafton, Illinois, May 13th through the 16th, and they still have tickets available. So rebelsofdisclosure.com is where to go for that. Of course, we do not want to forget about the biggest UFO conference in the world, Contact in the Desert, and that is coming up very soon at the end of this month. Go to contactinthedesert.com for more info. They've got about 8 stages going on at the same time, and I don't know how many speakers. Can't even count them. There's so many. So check that out. And then, of course, we have the annual MUFON Symposium in July in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. The keynote speaker is Robert Salas. And Robert is, he's wonderful. He's been on my show several times, and I know you're going to love this entire conference. Finally, I just want to mention, get your tickets now for the September Contact at Sea cruise. And that there's a really good lineup of speakers for this. And what an unusual, wonderful experience getting to go to Alaska and make several stops, and there are excursions. And oh my gosh, there's a lot going on. Don't want to miss this one either. So my guest this evening is Brit Elders. She's an investigative author and documentary filmmaker who traveled the world exploring a variety of topics, including the mysterious world of UFOs. She has participated in several in-depth investigations, including the Billy Meier case and the waves of UFO sightings in Mexico, which began in 1991 and continue today. The CEO of ShirleyMacLaine.com, Brit continues to research and write for herself and others. Welcome to the program, Brit.
Hi, Margie. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to have you on. I am such a fan of the Billy Meier case. I've been obsessed with it for most of my life. When I first heard about it a long time ago, I can't even remember when, but it's a very controversial case, and there are some naysayers involved, but I think, you know, by the time we get done today, everybody should be convinced this is the real deal, right?
Okay.
Well, we'll try. We'll see. But I do want to ask you first, before we get into that, how did you become involved in this case or anything unexplained?
I grew up in a very interesting household. My dad was literally a rocket engineer, worked with von Braun on the early missile projects. And so he was very left-brained, and he and his buddies would talk about the things that they had seen as they were launching their missiles, and the missiles were turning around, coming right back down. Ooh. But there were aircraft that they couldn't explain. They were discs, they were circular, looked like a hockey puck, some of them. And they would be talking about that. So I grew up with that. And my mother was an intuitive. So the two, just all of your things seemed normal to me. I thought everyone was intuitive. I thought people relied on that. And I never had a big question about UFOs. The case came to us, and when we really got involved was back in 77. And Wendell Stevens invited us to come to his house and take a look at some photographs of this remarkable UFO case. We did. We went down. We said, it's too good to be true. The photographs were too clear, too perfect, looked posed and positioned all the way through. We had a company at that time called Intercept, which was an electronic countermeasure company that kept banks and financial institutions, Fortune 500 companies, from being eavesdropped on or wiretapped. And we worked hard for that reputation. We did not want to lose it by throwing our resources, our investigation skills into a UFO case, which at that time was taboo. People did not discuss the subject like they do today. So we waited a little while, and before long, Wendell came back with more pictures and said, really, you have to get involved. We had some business over in Europe. We went from London into Switzerland, thinking, we're going to figure out how he did it very quickly. What happened was we were there 5 days, and by the time we left, we had photographs, movie footage, sounds of the craft, the actual audio that the craft puts out, and metal samples. And we went, okay, this really deserves a hard, serious investigation. You can't do an armchair analysis of it. You've got too much physical evidence, thump on it evidence, that you've got to get back and get into laboratories. And that's what really sort of made us all jump in with both feet.
So when you say we, who was with you?
My husband, Lee. Wendell did go with us on that first trip, and he had gone over once or twice before we had gotten to Switzerland. And then we had all of this information that Billy gave to us, Lee and I, and said, take it back to the United States and have it analyzed. And he turned over everything to us.
So did you have the photos and everything analyzed recently by recent forensic investigators?
No, we haven't, because what we were looking at the time, and what I still consider very important, this is the 70s when people did not have personal computers. They did not have cell phones that took amazing photographs and videos. And we didn't have photogrammetric programs like Photoshop where we could go in and create. AI wasn't around. None of that was around. So we decided that to look at things, we needed to use the best equipment we had at the time in the 70s, go to the best labs, which we did, let them analyze it. We certainly didn't have the expertise to make those determinations, but people at JPL did, at the University of Arizona, at USGS, and other labs all around the world. They're the ones that did the analysis. We have not taken it back in for analysis at this point, because if they couldn't duplicate it then with the best equipment they had, it's not fair to throw today's technology at it where we can duplicate it. You see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. How long did your investigation last?
7 years.
Okay.
And in that 7-year period of time, Lee and I spent well over 1 year living at the farmhouse. Different periods of time, but throughout that 7 years, we were at the farmhouse for over a year.
Did other people visit and have the same types of experiences?
Experiences, Meier, but there were many witnesses to this. There were people that came from all over Europe, literally all over the world. We were there when a Hopi elder, Thomas Banyaka, came in from Arizona and met with Meier. And he was sent by the tribe to talk to him about his experiences. They came from everywhere. And Billy was so open and so receptive. He just was willing to talk to people. It did get to be too much with so many people coming in. They were
Mhm.
disrupting his life. We saw people sitting at his door at 3 o'clock in the morning, banging,
Oh,
Billy, we have to talk to you. No respect for him as a human and
oh,
what his life was about. He is a farmer. And finally, a couple of times he just said, I want to break the contacts. I want this to end. I can't take it. It wasn't because of what was happening with the Pleiadians. It was what was happening with the people that were coming to visit. They were just pushing too hard and demanding too much, and he was not getting the things done he needed to do. So eventually he told them, okay, you want to come talk to me? You work with me in the field. And that sort of weeded out a lot of them, but many of them stayed and did work, and they had great conversations.
was the communication he had with the extraterrestrials all telepathic?
No, they had, when he first met Simyasa, who was the first Pleiadian that he met with, and that was back in 75, he saw her, they communicated verbally, like you and I are talking now.
Hmm.
She had studied his native language, Swiss German, was fluent in it, and they could communicate. But if she ran into a problem, she had a translator with her, a voice translator, and she could put the word in that he was trying to convey to her and get it in terms that she could understand. Much like we have today, and we can actually download an app for our phone that does translation. So
Mhm.
it's very similar, but this is back again in 1975. We didn't
Yeah.
have that.
Makes you wonder if we got a hold of one of those and reverse the technology.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
I
But
had
much
a
of their
yeah.
communication after the contacts was telepathic.
Mm.
Simyasa would come in and just basically rechannel all the information they had discussed so Billy could write it down in journals. And he kept those journals of their discussions. And that's what we ended up calling the messages, the contact notes.
I understand that some of the messages included things that were going to happen in the future. Did you find that any of that actually came to pass?
Yes, a couple of things we actually experienced. I'm not in a position to say it's all true, but I do know that Tito's death of Yugoslavia was predicted before it happened. Shirley MacLaine, Lee and I were in Switzerland when Anwar Sadat was assassinated. We were at the airport. When we got back to the house, there was this cross on the television and all this dirge music going on. And Billy says, what they're saying is not true. And we said, what do you mean? And he says, the story that's out is it was a single assassin that killed Sadat.
Oh.
That's what we had heard while we were in the airport. Billy walks away. He comes back with this big blue binder, opens it up, and he says, here, Samyasa told me that it was during a military parade. There were multiple shooters, and that's what happened. And it was only the following morning that that information was released in Switzerland.
Did the ETs ever say how they know the future? Are they time
Yeah.
traveling or what?
They have a system they call an event clock. So if you have event A and event B, that means, and they both happen, that means C is going to happen. But if A happens and B doesn't happen, then C won't happen. So they have a different way of
Uh,
viewing results that will happen in our world.
That is extremely bizarre.
Isn't it interesting, though? And doesn't it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Now I have to think about that a little bit and let that kind of uh, gestate. the Because the idea of time travel, of course, we're thinking linear here.
They do
Is
that too.
oh,
Yes.
do they? Okay,
Yes.
okay, that seems simpler to me to
Yes. They
travel
told
and go
Billy
look.
that they can go forward and backward in future and through dimensions.
Did they ever mention why they were giving this information to Billy about, especially about future events? Was there a reason?
to help us grow up and mature as a civilization, a world global civilization. They're concerned about us, that we're not doing enough to take care of ourselves and each other. They're concerned that we're headed in the direction that they've already experienced. They told Billy that the reason they were here is they want us to realize we're not the only thinking beings on the planet. And they want us to realize that everything here is very precious, because their original home system was in Lyra, and they destroyed it through a war, through conflict with each other. They were fortunate enough to have the technology to get off the planet before it was destroyed, to go to the Pleiades and engineer another planet where they could live. We don't have that capability. We can't engineer a planet. We can't get off world. So they're concerned about the directions we're going with all of our perpetual battles and wars and lack of communication and lack of understanding and compassion for each other. I lost your audio.
Okay.
There you are.
Somebody doesn't want me to talk. That seems to be a theme with contactees over the years.
Yes.
And with the big one, of course, being stop the wars, but also definitely stop nuclear.
Yes.
Of all types. Did he get that message too?
Not nuclear of all types, no. But
Okay,
we
just
had
weapons.
to be wary of nuclear war, yes.
Did he ever tell Billy, or did they ever tell Billy that they were responsible for shutting down nuclear facilities around the world?
No, not at all. In fact, what they told Billy was they cannot interfere with us yet. We have not pushed that limit where what we do here is going to affect what happens out there in the universe.
Okay.
There could be that point, but we have not hit that yet. And that too, in discussions with Billy and Lee and I, sitting around the table late at night, it would mean that we would have to be at the brink of war that would destroy this planet and set a ripple effect throughout the universe. That kind of harm they will get involved and interfere with. But otherwise, they want us to take care of our problems and be responsible for our own stewardship of each other and of the planet.
Okay, now this next question might sound a little strange,
Okay.
but I have to mention it because I do remote viewing readings for individuals. I do several a week. Okay, maybe 4 to 8 a week. And I have found in the last 6 months that a lot of the people, at least half that I'm talking to, are originally from Lyra or the Pleiades, is what I'm told. So I'm getting a feeling, and one of the messages I received was that was planned for this timing. So here, there are human beings who have incarnated many, many, many times, but they originally were from Lyra. Do you have any idea about why that might be?
Why they're all here right now?
Yeah, right now.
I can only speak from my personal reaction to that. Is we are nearing that breaking point. We're nearing that point where we could really do damage, not only to ourselves, but to the universe. And I think these people are incarnating now so that it can help us avoid the problems that they experienced in Lyra and what they had to go through by creating this new homeland in the Pleiades. And I think that's why they would be all here now. That makes perfect sense to me, that they would come in to help, even not consciously, but on an unconscious level, on a spirit level, coming in to help us.
Yeah, some of them are aware of it, but most aren't, and they just need to hear that message. And it seems that there's very, very soon, and I'm talking in the next year or two, something really big is going to happen, and that's why these people have incarnated at this moment. And I think the something big is a big reveal around the world that the ETs are going to do, because the governments are not doing it, and the U.S. is at the head of do not disclose.
I know.
So they're just going to do it.
I love their attitude of, oh, we're going to talk about it. We're going to look into it. Oh, no, it's not real. We can explain it. Go away. Leave me alone. Yeah, no. We are at the back end of that little scale of knowledge there.
Yeah. I wonder if Billy ever mentioned being given information about such an event like that.
He asked them one time, and now I've talked to Billy recently. That's not the issue, but I haven't asked him that specific question for an update. But he asked them one time if they would show themselves to the world. And he said at that point that the world couldn't handle it. The people could not handle it. It would crash the economy. It would crash the stock market. It would just be too much for a lot of people because they were still steeped in religious dogma. They didn't want to open their mind to the possibility that there were other beings out there, that there was other life in the universe, because we've had such a sort of pampered background of thinking we're the only ones here, that we're special, and we live on this beautiful little planet and nobody else in the universe exists. And that's how we've geared our thought processes for a lot of years. So to shake up the world with a mass landing, there would be many people that couldn't handle it.
I'm thinking, in light of the last 7 years since the Navy, Pentagon have come forward and, obviously shown craft that are not from here. And they recently just said, we don't know what they are or who they are. So I think they're giving us a very long reveal process.
Yes.
But it's taking forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's taking forever.
But that's what's important about the work that you do, Margie, and others, is that you have an opportunity to get this information out to individuals. Without you guys, without all of these people that are doing wonderful podcasts, radio shows, conferences, we would be back in the 70s still stuck. I mean, it's really what you guys have all done has kicked this up to a whole new level where people can access information that's really needed.
Yeah, and that's the idea, is getting the information out there about the truth, about a lot of things, especially UFOs. But and the Billy Meier case, let me show your book here. So you wrote this in the 70s?
Yes, ma'am.
And then just updated it?
We put the two books together and decided to release it. Beyond Words as a publisher. We have new information in the beginning of it, new information at the end of it. Plus all the great information that was in there in the first place, which includes the investigation, which includes witness statements from the Samyasa and her friends from the Pleiades, what Billy is like, what he experienced. Jamie Maussan wrote a preface. Shirley MacLaine wrote the foreword. Yes, and it's being very well received, because now people can look back and say, oh my gosh, that's absolutely true. We didn't have all this technology where we could manufacture something like this.
Right. There was no
Neither did
CGI.
Billy.
There was no Photoshop.
Right.
There were no digital cameras or video cameras. Oh, gosh, exactly. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take just a short break, about 3 minutes, and we will be right back with Brit Elders. Hey, UFO conference enthusiasts. We've got another great event for you in 2024. The Saucers and Aliens Kansas UFO Day in Dimension G is being held in the UFO capital of Kansas, Geneseo, on July 6th. This is a fun festival in the middle of nowhere. There will be a parade, decorated yards, costumes, vendors, speakers, and a showing of the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. Appropriately, an 8-foot-tall statue of Gort and a statue of Plateau will be dedicated. This will be the only museum in the U.S. with these custom-made statues. If you'd like to donate to the Statue Project or attend the event, visit GeneseoMuseum.com. That's GENESEO Museum.com. Be sure to bring your camera when you attend the event. That's GeneseoMuseum.com. And we're back with Unnext News. I'm your host, Margie Kay, and we are visiting this evening with Brit Elders. She is the author of UFO Contact from the Pleiades, Volume 1 and 2 put together. This is a 45th anniversary edition. Is this still relevant today, Brit?
Oh, I think even more than it was, because everything that the Pleiadians have told Meier is actually of more value today, because we are not learning fast enough. We're not learning that we need to care for the earth, that we need to care for each other. So I think what they had to say, the Pleiadians had to say, is very, very valuable. It's also valuable from the standpoint of this case is the only case out there that has so much evidence. And the evidence has been analyzed by places like JPL, Scripps Institute, IBM. No one has been able to duplicate all of it. So it does hold its relevance from that standpoint. It's also relevant that we have to realize, like the Pleiadians told Meier, we're not the only thinking beings out there. We need to move forward. We're going to be going into space soon with planned shots to Mars and beyond. We need to realize we're going to find others out there, and we need to be prepared for that.
Whoops, lost you for just a second there. Yeah, we, there are some who believe that there has already been contact when we've been in space, of course.
Yes.
And some of the astronauts have come forward, and it just makes you wonder how many people know things that are not talking about it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And how much of a gag order is put on them. I've had the opportunity to meet with several of the astronauts, and they're pretty open that they've seen things out there. They've experienced things out there, an awakening, a spiritual type of awakening. But they're not getting it out to the public. And we need to hear that.
Yeah.
We need to be made aware of it.
Yeah. Ed Mitchell did a bit of that, but
he was a love.
Otherwise, he was a super nice guy. I interviewed him quite some time ago. So there's a lot of controversy about this case. And I had someone scheduled to speak in Kansas City about this case. And I got just swamped with complaints and people saying this has been absolutely proven to be fake. How, and so I'm wondering, how did they prove it was fake? And was this disinformation as a government campaign?
I don't know that it was a government campaign. We were actually working in a lot of government labs. So, and they were very open with us, and we had the analysis done at these places that are funded by the government. So we never had any problems, although people said we would. Personally, we never had any problems. I think a lot of people had the reaction we initially did. It's too good to be true. So they back away from it, like we did. But then we were drawn into it. The thing I always ask people that say, oh, it's a fake. I don't believe it. I don't want to hear anymore. Okay, how come you say it's a fake? Who told you that? Where did you get your information?
Yeah.
Did those people analyze the evidence? Well, I can tell you right now that they didn't, because the evidence has never left our possession. It's in a bank vault, and no one has ever asked, I'd like to see it and run it through some tests.
Mm-hmm.
Not
the
a
skeptics
single
never
one.
do. The skeptics make a statement because that's their belief, and therefore it's so.
But you know what? It's okay if they believe that. I don't mind people believing that something isn't real. It's not my job to tell them it's real or it isn't. It is my job to tell you this is what the investigation did. As an investigative author, I put that out there, and then I say, make up your own mind and do your research. Find out and follow what's in here. Don't just think because somebody said something, it's accurate. And that's why we did the work and did the research. We've got this book out, and at the end of the month, we're bringing out a documentary film. It was filmed in 1982 with all of the science tacked into it, as well as the investigation in Switzerland. You get an up-close look at Billy Meier, and it's got the same name, UFO Contact from the Pleiades, a documentary film. So yes,
Where will we be able to see that?
It will be available initially on DVD, and then it will be available on streaming. We're in the process of working out the streaming thing now.
Well, I can't wait to read the book. I can't wait to see the documentary. How can people get a hold of your book?
The book is available anywhere, any bookstore, online stores. Amazon is doing quite well with it, Barnes & Noble. So it is available anywhere. And if you can't find it for some reason, you can go to Beyond Words Publishing. The publisher has it as well.
Okay. All right. Well, I've got to ask you this, since you work with Shirley MacLaine.
Okay.
and Shirley was there with Billy Meier. What did she think of this?
When she first went in, she wanted to find out for herself if she had that heart connection to Billy that said, okay, this is authentic. So she asked him question after question after question for 5 days. And by the time she left, she felt she had uncovered every rock she possibly could in a verbal conversation, and it was real. Yeah, we took her over there in 1980, and she has been a fan of Billy Meier's ever since. She absolutely believes that this is a valid contact case. At the time, she was writing out on a limb. And what she did was the character David is a composite character of 3 contactees. Billy Meier is one of them.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. We had quite a number of great experiences while she was there. We decided one night to, just as an offside little story, to go bowling. Okay. And Billy says, well, get in the Jeep. And we all got in the Jeep. He was driving. He turned off the headlights. One arm, mind you. Billy Meier has one arm. He's shifting and going through the forest like a madman. And we're in this Jeep going, oh, please, let us get there in one piece. He was so calm, got us right to the bowling alley. We got out, we all had a drink. Yeah.
Didn't he say that, well, I mean, in the movie, when she's riding in a car,
that
he
was
says the
the
car is
experience with Bill.
protected.
That's right.
Was that the case
That
there?
was the case.
Oh my
That was the
goodness.
case. He was back
Man.
roading it. I mean, we were not on a road. He was going to this little village 7 miles away and just going through the forest.
Oh my goodness.
It was scary. You just had to relax with it. Yeah.
While you were there with Shirley, did you get to see any UFOs?
No, we didn't. Not that time. Yeah.
They were.
With Billy, I have never seen a UFO. I've seen unusual things I can't explain. Excuse me.
Okay. Yeah.
Allergies.
What kind of unusual things did you see?
A light show in the middle of the night that just lit up everything. Just bright white light. Happened 3 times.
And with no source, or you couldn't locate
Nothing.
a source?
No source at all.
It's typical. They do things like that. We've recently had some things happen like that on a case here in Kansas City I've been working on. There's a
just
portal
light
there.
from everywhere.
Yeah.
That's what this was. It was just in front of trees, behind trees, above trees, under trees, everywhere.
And did you ever see balls of light?
I've seen them, but not with Billy. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But you have seen them. Wow. Do you think that extraterrestrial civilizations visited our planet in the past?
Absolutely. To me, there is no question. When you start looking at the history on this planet and you start getting into cultures and their teaching and their mythology and their legends, it's all about how the star beings came and helped them. Not just from the Pleiades, but Arcturus, Sirius, Aldebaran. All of them came, helped us, I think seeded us, created a population group, but they taught us things. They taught us how to be better farmers. They taught us how to use their observatories for following the stars, things like that. And it's in every culture. You can't miss it when you really start looking. It's everywhere. So yes, I do believe that they've been here for a long, long time.
And do you believe there are multiple races,
Yes.
if you will?
Yeah, I do. I've been involved in too many investigations to think there is only one group visiting this planet. And Billy, in fact, had talked to the Pleiadians about how many were visiting back in the 70s. And there were 105 different civilizations then. So who knows how many now?
Well, the universe is a big place.
Yes, it is.
It's not hard to, I mean, especially since the Hubble and the Webb telescope are showing us just how big it is, that there's no end. The chances are very slim that we would be the only ones.
How can you go outside at night, look up at the incredible sky, see those amazing stars, and think you're the only one? It's really an arrogant thought.
It is indeed. And kind of like the flat earthers. I'm sorry, guys. The planet is round. I can't fathom that. So have you investigated any abduction cases?
I have talked to a lot of abductees, not done a lot of in-depth investigation because most of them don't produce physical evidence. Some body marks, a couple of implants, things like that we have looked into. Some abduction cases, after you talk to them and you find out that they actually approached the craft and were curious, they, at the end of the conversation, decide they weren't abducted. They actually had a contact. So they shift that concept of fear. But some of them have horrific experiences. And really, it takes a lot of work to get that through the consciousness and get it out of the system.
What do you think about the so-called negative extraterrestrials in the contacts that you've had? Do people say that there are certain types? Reptilians comes to mind. I know a few people have said they've had good encounters with reptilians,
Right?
but most don't. What are your findings?
That there seems to be good and bad everywhere, just like there is on this planet. I don't like that division of good, bad, good, evil, whatever you want to call it, but there are those that don't live up to higher standards everywhere through the universe and here. And we have to realize that. I think one of the best things, and I've talked to a lot of contactees and abductees about this, is go with your feeling. If you happen to have an experience and you're feeling this warm, loving energy, then that's great. But if you're feeling fear, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Back away from it. You are in control of you and you can back away from it. You don't have to participate.
And it's good advice to use your intuition.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen a craft anywhere?
Oh, yes. Many times.
Ah, well, do tell.
In Mexico, there's this great little place called Casita Blanca. It's outside Puebla, not far from the town of Atlisco. People go there at night just to sit and wait for the UFOs to come in. All different sizes, shapes, doing loop-de-loops around each other, going in and out of clouds, back and forth, right angle turns, amazing. And then had an amazing experience with my parents here in northern Arizona. And we were driving to California, and we saw a massive ship. And my dad, being the engineer and the missile specialist he was, got out of the car and said, "Where the hell would we land that thing? It was so big." And the next thing he said was, "How's it flying? It's not making any noise. What's its propulsion?" His brain went that way. And Mom and I just were going, wow, it was incredible. It was really gorgeous.
That is totally awesome. I don't suppose anyone got a picture.
One of the truckers, because several trucks pulled over behind us to get out and look at this thing, one of the truckers tried to take a picture of it. I don't know if he ever did. He never sent it to me. My dad talked to him later, and he said his whole camera messed up. He had a 35 millimeter camera.
Oh, my goodness.
And it just, all the film was gone in it. It was like it had been opened. You know how you used to open the back and expose all the film? That's like what happened with his film.
You mentioned your father. Did he ever talk about anything about UFOs whatsoever in relation to his job?
Only that they saw them a lot, and sometimes they were told to lay down on the ground, put their hands over their head and their head facing down, that they weren't supposed to be seeing those things. So they did talk about that.
So their superiors told them to lie down and oh my.
If you saw them, lay down, cover your head, don't look. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, the engineers all wondered, well, what are we not looking at? So they were looking and they were trying to figure out, how's it flying? How's it so silent? When our missile sounded like, an earthquake going up, and all of them were going up and coming down initially.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Was he told not to talk about it?
He was, but he talked with his buddies about it at the house, and that's where we heard it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes people just think kids are not paying any attention, and they're listening to every word.
That's why it seems so normal to me. Oh, okay. There are things flying around out there. That's cool.
Yeah. What is your advice for someone who sees a UFO? What should they do?
Oh, boy. Don't call into the government hotline because it will vanish. I feel that something has to happen in the next 2 years where we create a space, all of us, create a space where people can report their sightings, present their footage, whatever they have, talk about it, so we can learn from this stuff. There's too much now happening. I don't think there's a repository right now that could handle all of the sightings going on around the world. And we need that so we can learn from it. We can correlate information from all around the world and from various cases. That teaches us, and that's where the space we need to be in. But it's not happening yet. There's groups all over that are accepting stories and footage, but we need it all in one place so everybody can learn from it. Hopefully that'll happen soon.
Well, there is a project that's happening right now. That's they're finalizing it between National UFO Reporting Center,
Right?
MUFON, and NICAP, and maybe some others. So hopefully that will happen, because I've been involved with MUFON for some time,
Uh-huh.
and we do investigate on site. Some of the
Right?
other places don't investigate; they just take the
Right.
report, and so it is confusing. It really needs to be
It
a single
does.
place to go to
It
do
does.
research,
It
and
does.
I
We
feel like
need
more
that.
of it needs to be made public.
Absolutely. I think if people had a place where they could go without judgment and write up their story or verbally explain their story, put it in this specific location, whatever that is, maybe what you're talking about, then it's there, and not do it expecting to be judged. We've got to get
Mhm.
past this judgment issue, because my truth is mine, yours is yours, Billy Meier's is his. He knows what happened to him. The evidence supports what he says. But I didn't have that experience. I can't say Billy's absolutely 100% right. It's not my experience. We need a place where the lack of judgment helps others come in and report their sightings, their experiences, their encounters. If we get that, we are going to learn so much more than what we have right now, because it's so scattered.
Well, I was just talking with someone the other day about the fact that a lot of us have come to realize that it's an individual experience. It has to do with
That's right.
consciousness, because you can have 5 people standing together watching something and they'll all report something different.
Very true.
And some of them might receive a telepathic message that says one thing and somebody else gets something else, and they
Yeah.
all draw a different craft.
Right.
I mean, what is going on there? Because, we know that people don't make good witnesses in court, but right after an event, if they write everything down and draw it, I know I've had several very savvy people who have been witnesses to something, and in one case comes to mind where the woman in the car, after they just had a close encounter and an ET running at their car,
Oh,
they took off in the car, and she said after about a mile, she said, pull over right now, everybody draw what you saw and write down whatever
for
what you
her.
experienced. If everybody would do that, it'd be fantastic.
Yes, it really
Because
would.
yeah, yeah,
And
sometimes it
we
is the same, but most of the time.
just think what you could learn from that, though, because each one is their knowledge base comes from how they've been informed growing up.
Yeah.
And so that's what their perception lens is. And if you can take each one of those stories, though, and look at them, find the correlating pieces, we can learn so much. And we're not learning right now. We're really doing ourselves a disservice by not having this type of repository available for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So, what do you hope to see in the future for this subject?
Wow. More open conversation. I'm so thrilled with what's happened in 45 years, where people before would whisper and get in the back corner and didn't want to talk about things. And now they're openly discussing it. We're finally, in this country, beginning to see some things on the news. Other countries, it's normal. But here, finally.
Yeah, I lost a little bit of your good sound. Could you aim that just yeah,
Better?
that's gonna be good. Yes, that's gonna be great. Um, what's it like working with Shirley MacLaine?
Wow. Shirley is a kick. She is real. She's not precocious. She may be a movie star, but don't tell her that. Caring, very deep thinker, a questioner of everything. She's tough, knows what she wants, and at 90 years old is starting a new movie.
That's amazing. That is just amazing. She just doesn't stop.
No.
And she was really a pioneer.
Yes.
Coming out in public with this type of information. Her first book, Out on a Limb, I think was her first book. And she was working on that the time she visited Billy Meier, you said.
Yeah.
And got some of her information for the book for that.
Right.
And then the movie, of course. And I saw her on Johnny Carson, saw her in different places. And everybody's always got a tongue-in-cheek when they're talking about UFOs. And she's like, no, this really happened.
It's real. Yeah. It's very real.
Yeah.
She is, to me, the one that probably opened the door to metaphysical thought. And the rest of us just kicked it in a little more. But she opened it for everyone else.
She did.
Because
she made it
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, she did. And I think reading her works kind of pushed me a little bit more into that direction as well.
Yes, it does.
Thank you, Shirley. She's great. I love her. So we've got the documentary. Okay. And that's coming out when?
The end of this month, the end of May.
The end of May.
Yeah.
Wonderful. The book. And what are your plans for the future?
I'm working with a couple other people on other books, not related to this subject, but I also think that I want to write more about what happened in the Meier events and the investigation, the things we experienced. So probably that in the next few months.
That sounds wonderful. Please keep in touch with me about that.
Absolutely.
Would love to have you come back on. This has just been fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
I love what you've done and what you're doing. And I'm just so glad that we're getting to revisit the Billy Meier case and let the new generation see this case, because it's big and it's got a lot of evidence and it's fascinating.
And it makes you think. And that is so important right now. We have to be thinking, cognizant beings.
How old is Billy Meier?
87.
Okay.
Yeah. He's doing pretty well. I had a Zoom call with him the other day. He looked great. Yeah. We just chatted up a storm for 40 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, good. I'm glad that you have that contact with him ongoing. And
well, before I put the book out.
Oh, go ahead.
Now, before we put the book out, I wanted to talk to him about it. I wanted him to know that that was going to happen, because his life was turned upside down after the initial contacts and people started coming to the farm and everything else. I wanted to make certain he would be okay with it. And he said, there are people out there that don't know. Let them know. So I said, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Brit. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Margie. And thank you for inviting me. I've enjoyed it.
Well, have a good rest of your evening, and we'll be talking soon.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Brit. That was fascinating. I'm just, like I said, obsessed with the Billy Meier case. I have been forever. And so make sure you get this book, UFO Contact from the Pleiades, 45th anniversary edition, available everywhere and especially at Amazon. That's going to wrap it up for this evening for me. Make sure you check out our conference page on the unxnetwork.com and all the other things we have there, and along with all of our shows. We have over 31 shows now, I believe, on the network. So if you're into paranormal or unexplained, don't go anywhere else, because it's all right here.